Yes, something actually very positive happened. We were a few colleagues from York, different departments, to take the course together, and the outcome of that was actually to create what we call the community of practice. So we organized a few workshops based on the same themes, but having other colleagues who didn't take the course sharing their experience, having discussions using some of these tools. And it's been really, really positive. And I don't think that would have happened without that course.
For someone like myself, that I'm new in this setting, being here for only 2 years, influencing more senior colleagues sometimes is a bit challenging. But following what I learned from the enhanced program leadership, the approach that I'm taking is to try to influence them through some ideas and examples that they can prove that they work. As a sample of that, actually, I have a internal, again, a fellowship. That fellowship is on student education and scholarship. So the fellowship is for 2 years, and we just finished the first year, which I wrote a manuscript, submitted to an educational journal, and also we did a podcast to speak about the findings actually of this fellowship. So these sort of actually findings and kind of publications that we will have following a fellowship, I think can help to influence more senior colleagues, and it makes the communication with them easier because they see that there are some ideas and some kind of example that have been working, and so this is how I take this approach in order to influence more senior colleagues and provide my leadership role, actually.
This was one aspect which I was really looking forward to considering when joining the course, because my major personal challenge is that I have many module leads on my program, and they're all in different departments. Some are not even in academic departments, but in other groups. And I do not have line management of any of them. And also their modules only a very small percentage of their time that they spend. So there's lots of different pressures for all of them as well. Yet I want to create a program where we all work towards a common objective, and we really want to deliver something very innovative and very good. Now, getting them on board over the last few years, I've worked really hard to create a community where everyone feels like they are striving towards a common goal and everyone is involved and engaged. But I feel I've always really worked hard on making sure everyone's heard and everyone has input. And sometimes that becomes ineffective when quick decisions need to be made. And I found that in the course, it was very helpful to go through the different leadership styles and frameworks and think about what would be appropriate when. So my one style works very well, but at other times, the situation calls for me maybe putting my foot down and being more decisive and more taking charge, even though not everyone might immediately be on board. So it's been very helpful for me to reflect on that and think about where I can develop my own practice further.
So I think one of the big problems that all of us who are in education leadership roles in higher education face, in particular at research and education, mixed research and education institutions, is to convince people to do things for you. And although I'm a head of department, I have very little direct line management responsibilities. People to do me favors. I don't have any power over them as such. And so in some ways that really requires me to use a full kind of spectrum of different leadership styles so that I get people to do what I want them to do. Now, one of the things that I found out in taking the module on the EPL program that is about leadership styles is that I probably tend to veer very much on the conciliatory side of leadership. So I hope that people like me and that they want to do me a favor, in brief. And that doesn't always work, because if someone is in the middle of writing a research grant, then they don't necessarily want to mark 20 essays or something like that. So one of the outcomes of that module of the EPL program was actually to reflect that I should probably try other parts of the leadership spectrum and become a little bit more directive in certain situations.
Well, one of the very interesting resources, I suppose, or elements that we looked at in the Leading Through Influence was that Pauline and Angela gave us some models of different ways you can influence. Of course, because of course we're leading without power, and we very much found those really useful. So when another professor in the faculty came to talk about leading through influence and his journey as a program leader, trying to get people on board, trying to include people's voices, but also, you know, make changes. He talked about his experience in the School for Business Studies, and we then linked that to the different theoretical elements that Pauline and Angela had introduced us to. And then that led us on to discuss in our groups how we individually or had experience of that. So we've sort of brought together, if you like, a whole range of examples that link the theoretical to what we as individuals and what Enrico, our expert practitioner, had talked to us about. So we were able to blend with using the materials as a really good prompt and starting point and giving us some kind of theoretical background with what was going on with the program leaders in the group who were part of the workshop, and then the invited speakers from within the faculty that came to input with us. But equally at the same time, the colleagues who'd come with me on the course were facilitating in groups, and we found that really helpful to have people who'd been on the course who were then facilitating with their own colleagues when we were doing group work, because the colleagues who'd come on the course with me, we really understood what we needed to get out of group discussions or group work. And so having that background of expertise from the course, then inputting and guiding colleagues through the different work that we did in the workshops, we found that really gave us a nice focus and a kind of clarity about these workshops and how we can support the program leaders in the faculty.